Hello everybody, and how you doing today? Welcome. My name is Brandon Johnson and I am going to be your facilitator for today's webinar, Showing Up, Enhancing Your Life Through Emotional Intelligence. I am a personal development coach and consultant, and I will be taking you through today's workshop, helping you with enhancing your life experience. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you have everything. So if you have not done so already, please go ahead and download your participant workbook. It is in the link, which is either going to be found in the notes or just associated with this, depending on where you got it from, if it's on the website or YouTube. You can also go ahead and download, if you'd rather, the PDF of the slides. That's available for you as well. I know some of you prefer the slides to take notes on. Even if you do that, I'm still going to ask that you download the workbook though, because it will be your place to capture notes to the questions I ask, any reflections, conversations, those type of things. So take a moment, go ahead and download those if you haven't done so, and then we'll get started. All right, so since I am unable to be with you today in person or through video, I have created a digital profile. You see me there, the little redheaded kid waving at you. Hi, how you doing? Glad you're all here today. What I want to know is I want to know who's with us. So if you would, let me know your name, where you're joining us from, and then I want you to also jot down one thing that gets under your skin or one thing that makes you really happy. Go ahead and capture those now, and then we're going to get started because we're actually going to use those, okay? Great. It looks like everybody has those. Everybody's here. We're ready to go. Our goal is to figure out how do we move you from the things that get under your skin and create more of the moments that make you really happy in your life, okay? Let's look at how we are going to get there. First, the purpose of today is to increase your emotional intelligence, to enhance how you show up in the relationships of your life. And we're going to define emotional intelligence. I'm going to look at what it means to enhance how you show up. We're going to define what it means to show up. And then we're also going to look at the aspects of relationships and really the components of what that means. Okay? But before we do that, I want to make sure that you're in the right spot and that this is what you signed up for. So our objectives today are we are going to really define what emotional intelligence is and what are the components of it. That way, once we recognize it in ourselves, we can start to do the things we need to do to get better at EI and make ourselves happier. From there, we also want to understand how it impacts our relationships across all of our life, not just our relationships with our spouse and our kids, but all relationships, and we'll define that. You also want to understand how emotions and energy relate. What's the tie between those two? Then from there, we're going to identify some opportunities for your own personal growth. And then I'm going to give you some tools to leave here with that you can put into practice right away that will enhance your life, your emotional intelligence, and start to lead to more happiness, more success, more effectiveness, all of those things you want. So, if we're in agreement that that's why we are here, let's get started. So first, let's talk about emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? When I ask you to think about it, what are the things that come up? Go ahead and jot down a couple buzzwords that you think of when it comes to emotional intelligence. So when I think of emotional intelligence, I really like this definition. What it comes down to is the ability to distinguish, understand, and have greater awareness of how your thoughts and feelings connect with your outward displays and behaviors. Okay? So there's two parts to that. It's the ability to manage and express appropriate emotions at the appropriate time, and also the ability to navigate the emotions and expressions of others effectively. So there's the personal piece, expression of our own appropriate emotions, and navigating other people's emotions. Okay? Now, the definition's great. It gives us a starting point, but there's not really a lot to leverage there. we can't really do much with that. Like, where do I start to enhance that? Okay? So what I really like is to break it down into 5 key components. What this does is it allows us to understand what are the pieces that I'm already really strong at emotionally, and what are my biggest areas and opportunities for growth that if I start to put some work in, I'll see the greatest impact in my life, my effectiveness, and those type of things. Okay? So let's look at those 5 components. The first component is self-awareness. It's our ability to recognize emotions as they happen. When they come up, we see them, we feel them, we can categorize them and put them in a box. Okay? It's the starting point. If you can't recognize them, you can't change them, manipulate them, leverage them, any of those type of things. So you have to become aware of them first. Once you are aware of them, then you can start to regulate them. Controlling your emotions, using appropriate emotions in appropriate times, those are the type of things that we're looking for. Another big component of this is motivation. A lot of people talk about motivation, and it almost seems like it's this far-reaching thing that's not really associated to anything specifically, but in the context of our emotions, it's what are the things that get us to take action? What allows us to work towards something whenever we don't feel like working towards something? Staying committed to things whenever they seem like they're never going to come to fruition. What motivates us to do good work, to show up in our relationships, to show up at work, those type of things. Okay? Once we start to move away from ourselves, we start to move towards others and navigating other people's relationships. The first part of that is empathy. It's how do we understand and recognize the emotions of others. Once we recognize those, how do we actually navigate them? How do we use our social skills to say, this person's upset, I should show up differently in this relationship than also being upset. It allows us to be more effective within those relationships. One, to get what we want out of it, but also just be happier in life, right? So now that we understand the 5 components, what we can do is we can say, you know what? I am really, really good at understanding other people's emotions, and I'm very empathetic. You might even be an empath. You might just feel it and not even need to really recognize it. Just walk into a room and be like, whoa, that person is sad. I can feel it off of them. Okay, great. But do you have the social skills to be able to navigate that? You may not. What you want to do is identify one of these areas that is the low-hanging fruit that if you work on will have the most impact in your life overall. Okay? So take a minute looking at these definitions and identify one area that will be your biggest impact, the biggest opportunity for you to work on, and why. All right. So you've identified an area to work on today, and you've identified why that's important. But who cares? Why do we care about emotional intelligence? It feels like emotional intelligence over the last 5 years or so has really burst on the scenes. It's kind of the catchy buzz phrase that organizations are trying to train. But why is it important? It is important, and it's something we need to care about because our emotions serve as a feedback mechanism. Think about emotions this way. Emotional pain is very similar to physical pain. It's there to tell you to pay attention and to take recognition that something is out of alignment, something's hurt, something's not working for you. That emotional pain is a signal that what you are doing, the way you are living, needs to change, needs to be modified, needs to be inspected, right? On the flip side of that, though, pleasurable emotions indicate that you are in alignment with your values, in alignment with the things that you feel are important to you. You're living a life that is encompassing of what you want to live. Think about those states of flow, those moments where time stands still, you're having a great day, or on the flip side, you lose track of time and it goes really fast because you're just enjoying yourself. Those are emotional highs are showing that your life is in alignment, that you are doing the things you should be doing. They are the monkey with the symbols, clicking and clacking, saying, pay attention to me. Your emotions will throw a fit, or they will let you know that you are doing the things you need to be doing. All right? So our emotions, as you can guess, impact how we show up in our relationships. And I've broken relationships for the sake of this workshop into 3 different parts. First is those relationships with ourselves. How do we show up with ourselves? Do we build ourselves up or do we cut ourselves down? What does our self-talk look like? Are we hard on ourselves for the sake of getting things done, or are we hard on ourselves and it just buries us and makes us feel bad about it? We want to really inspect that. The second is relationships with others, people at work, your spouse, your children, those other external relationships. And remember, we talked about social skills. That's where that emotional intelligence piece really comes into play here. And how are we showing up and how do we navigate those relationships in a way that is both effective and serves what we value, our emotional needs. And finally, the relationship with situations. This one I think sometimes gets lost track of because whenever let's say you're sitting in traffic and somebody cuts you off or does something that you think is ridiculous, you get mad at that person and you think that that's a relationship with others emotion, when really you don't know that person, you're not attaching it to that person, they just happen to be the scapegoat for the situation. Really, your emotions and how you're showing up is in traffic, in times of stress, in those elements where things don't go the way you think that they should go. So we really want to focus on how are we showing up in these 3 areas, and is it serving us or is it actually causing us emotional pain? And we can look at that, and what we were going to focus on today is identifying those emotions when they come up, stepping out of them and asking ourselves, what is this trying to tell me? So, that being said, take a moment and really consider how would being more emotionally intelligent impact how you show up in your relationships in your life. Think about your relationships with yourself, some of the people around you, as well as your situations. Take a moment and write this down. Okay? The next thing I really want you to think about is, now that you know that, what would showing up differently do for your life experience? If you were to show up at a higher level of emotional intelligence, if you were to show up more engaged, more excited, happier, more fulfilled with yourself, with the people around you, with your situations, what do you think those outcomes would be in your life? What do you think your overall life experience would be? It is super important for us to recognize not only the importance of emotional intelligence in our life, but that self-awareness piece, right? That first component. How are we showing up? What does it do for us? If I'm always combative in the relationship at work, and I'm always going in on my soapbox trying to win an argument or trying to be right, and I never get ahead or get what I want out of that relationship, emotional intelligence would tell me, hey, you're combative, trying to be right, intent, engagement in this relationship isn't working. So the next component would be, let's regulate that. Maybe if I show up from a level of service and a level of happiness and a level of understanding, I can actually make progress in that relationship with this person. We can move forward. We can move past things. We can start to actually work together. So it's so important to understand that how you show up and how you are coming to the table, how you are engaged, is super important in every relationship and the outcomes that you get in those relationships. Okay? So, now that we kind of understand what emotional intelligence is, let's look at how it actually manifests. Emotions actually have energy, and we want to talk about what emotional energy is. And this comes from IPEC. That's where I got my coaching certification. And what they really harp on is the emotional energy, they call it energy dynamics, and how these things manifest in real life and how you can recognize them and navigate them, not just in yourself, but in others as well. What I want to point out is that energy from emotions is measurable. If you look at the graphic here on the screen, you can see different emotions: anxiety, depression, happiness, sadness, love, whatever it is, has different emotional frequency. It is very important to understand that emotions show up in the world around you and they can be felt, right? Some of you are empaths. That means you can walk into a room and without anybody saying a word, you can feel if somebody's happy or sad or excited or mad just because of the energy they're putting off, just because of the feeling in the room. And I'm sure everybody's recognized this when you walk in a room and it just feels almost muggy, right? And it's not because it's humid. It's just because the energy in the room is low and heavy and it's weighted on you. This is real. Science can measure it. Pay attention to it. Okay? So now that we understand that, what we want to know is how do we use it to help us recognize how we are showing up in ourselves at any given time. And the key is to really pay attention to the energy behind the emotions. Okay, so emotional energy is neither good nor bad. Like we said, it's just feedback. There's different levels, but we're not looking for positive or negative. There's no such thing as negative energy. There's low energy, okay? But even low energy can be beneficial, and we're going to get to that here in a minute. But focus on it's neither good nor bad, not positive nor negative. It's just different levels, okay? Different emotions have different very levels of energy that we talked about. The higher the energy that you put off, the more effective you are. Okay, IPEC has studied thousands and thousands and thousands of people through their energy dynamics program. And they found that people that resonate at higher average energy levels, that have higher levels of emotional intelligence, are happier, they're more successful, they're more effective in their lives. So how do we get more of that? First is to understand what those different levels are. So I've taken their model and I've modified it slightly to fit, well, to be honest, to fit me. Because I think one way to understand it is to break it into some core elements. So the first is what we call catabolic energy. This is the lowest level of energy we have. And the cool thing about emotional energy is that the further we move away from ourself and out of our ego, the higher the energy is. So what that means is that the lower forms of energy, we are very self-centered, very selfish, okay? So at catabolic energy, we're focused on us, right? Typically, what happens whenever we spend a lot of time in catabolic energy is a place where we are easily drained, right? It takes a ton of energy out of us. It's very resisting and contracting energy. It also kind of serves as a blinder. It limits our vision to opportunity, to see others for who they are. It kind of makes us put labels on things. It closes us off for the world. It really limits us in our abilities. It may offer some short-term benefits, though. Like I said, there's no such thing as negative energy. It sometimes is actually beneficial to slip into catabolic energy and use it for a short period of time. However, if you stay there, it can actually deteriorate and break you down. It'll give you a short energetic boost, but only for a little bit of time, right? That's those testosterone surges. You don't want that all the time, but every once in a while, that might be beneficial. So let's really look at catabolic energy. So the core there's three parts to this, right? It's your core feeling, your core thought, and then the core action associated with that. So at level 1, the core feeling is really sadness. You feel sad, you feel down. And remember, this is because you're really focused on yourself. You're not focused on others. You're really just poor me. Everything goes against me. What's the problem with me? Why does this always happen to me? It's a victim mentality. These are the thoughts that you have that create this associated feeling. And think about it, whenever you've been in that mode of poor me, that victim mentality, how active are you? How productive are you? Not very, right? If you're sad and down and you're in a place of grief even, you kind of just want to lay around. Now, you say, Brandon, you said that there's no such thing as negative energy. This seems very negative. But it can also be very beneficial, right? It is low energy. It's very lethargic. But if you are sick, if you have the flu, if you're healing, if you need to be a victim and take care of yourself, it's actually beneficial to be in level 1 until you are healed and you can come out of it. Now, don't live there because you can't get a lot done. Your relationships will suffer and you'll actually do damage to yourself. Okay? But if you need to slip there for a little bit to get out of harm or whatever it is, that's okay. Okay? Which brings us to the next part, which is level 2. Level 2 energy, the core feeling is anger. The core thought is conflict. And the core action is defiance. This is where you're combative. I have to be right. Remember, we're focused on ourselves, right? Now we're moving away from poor us to I need to win. Okay? And that means I'm going to be very conflicting. I'm going to do what I have to, say what I need to win. I'm going to fight. Okay? Once again, this can be productive. There's a lot of action that comes out of anger. If you're sad and down and it feels like the world's going against you and you can get mad about it, you'll actually take action. You'll get pissed off. You'll make the phone call you need to make. You'll drive to wherever you need to drive to have the conversation. You'll do what you need to initiate some kind of momentum. Now, can you live there angry all the time? I would say no. However, whenever I teach this class and I say no, the best example I've ever heard is what Eminem lives in a state of anger all the time. He's pissed off on the world and he's sold more platinum records than Jesus. I don't know. Like, yes, true, but he's also broken down, had a really hard life. It's not that productive to live in a constant state of anger. Can you leverage it? Yes. Just don't live there, okay? So this level 1, level 2, where we are focused on ourself, is coming from 1, sadness, or 2, anger. It's very fight or flight. It's survival. It's our reptilian instinct from thousands of years of evolution, right? So once again, the lowest level of energy, but not negative. So here's what I want you to do. One of the biggest components of emotional intelligence is the self-awareness. So I want you to really think about 2 to 3 times in the last couple of weeks when you've been in a place of catabolic energy, either sad or angry. Even if it was just for a moment, what was the situation? What was the relationship? Was it the relationship with yourself, with someone else, or with a situation? And again, as far as the situation goes, make sure it's not a situation where you're blaming a person, but really you're upset with something that's happening that you just attached it to the person that happened to be there. Think about it this way. If it was somebody else in the situation, would you have still felt the same way? What caused it? What was your core thought behind the catabolic emotion? And with that thought, and if you actually go there and think about it again, really put yourself there, you can actually bring back up that core feeling. What was that feeling? And how did you show up in the relationship? Were you angry or sad? Were you lethargic? Were you combative? Did you fight? Did you yell? Did you hide? What did you do? And how effective were you in that relationship? Did it serve you? Was the outcome what you wanted or expected? Great. So the next category is what we call anabolic energy. Anabolic energy is moving away from ourselves so much and it's starting to focus on other people. What this allows us to do is it actually allows us to be more constructive in our relationships. Instead of focused on getting ours, winning, or self-protecting and being sad and lethargic, we will start to think about other people. We'll start to empower ourselves. We'll start to expand. It's very fueling energy. It's healing and growth oriented, and it also helps move us forward whenever we're stuck, right? So you can go from a place of I'm angry, I need to focus on me, to thinking about others, thinking about letting things be what they are and not being so combative and fighting it. And what it does is it's super beneficial in leading others in the same direction, right? So if you're angry and you're just trying to boss people around and that's not working, you can move to anabolic energy and you can actually lead people in the direction instead of dictating and shouting to get them into the direction that you're looking for, okay? So at level 3, the core thought is forgiveness. Or sorry, the core feeling is forgiveness. You're forgiving of people, of situations, the person that cut you off, the little old lady that keeps getting in my way at the grocery store. I'm going to forgive her because I know it's not personal. It's not her taking something out on me or being rude to me. It's just somebody not paying attention, going about their day, and we just happen to be crossing paths. So I'm forgiving about that, right? What that means is I'm taking responsibility for my emotions, my actions, and my responses. So I become more cooperative. Some would even say that level 3 is an area of complacency, where you're okay with things just being what they are. Even if the outcome's not exactly what you want, you understand it's not the end of the world, right? So you're just like, sure, and you're going to eat a sandwich. Because whenever I'm complacent and I'm in a place of comfort, I like to eat sandwiches. Make sense? At level 4, we actually come from a place of compassion. Our core feeling is concern, and our core action is service. So once again, remember, catabolic energy was focused on us. At level 1, I'm really focused on me. At level 2, I'm focused on my relationship with others, but I'm trying to win. At level 3, everything is kind of neutral. We are all existing, things are what they are. I don't need to win, you don't need to win, we're just hanging out. At level 4, I'm actually more supportive in putting myself out there to help and guide, and I'm concerned and I'm compassionate for others, right? How can I help you? Very service oriented. Tony Robbins talks all the time that one of the key motivational drivers in humans is a place of service, giving back. What is your legacy going to be? How are you going to support the people around you? If you can tap into that, you actually are more you're actually happier in your life. You're more fulfilled. Okay? So again, what I want you to do is I want you to think about this. Think of 2 to 3 times you've been anabolic in the last couple of weeks. What was the relationship? What caused it? How did you feel about it? How did you show up? And were you effective? Take a minute to reflect on that. Great. So the third and final is what we call high anabolic energy, or what I call high anabolic energy. Okay? High anabolic energy is focused on us and we. So catabolic energy, me. Anabolic energy, you. High anabolic energy, we. So it starts to blend them together. Okay? It is the highest level of energy, and this is measurable. It actually puts off the most energetic frequency. It's what we call flow and joy. It's those states where you just kind of are in the moment, time stands still, or you lose track of time. You're just kind of there and happy and joyful. It is what some, I think Franklin Covey calls it, synthesis as well. And then we really start to see everything as an opportunity. Things don't really get in our way. It's how can I leverage this? How do I make the most of this? And you actually become in harmony with your surroundings. Things just kind of happen for you. You're not sure why. You find $20 in the parking lot. You walk inside. The thing you wanted to buy for $20 is actually now $10. It's on sale, so you can buy 2 of them. The lady at the cash register thinks you're cute, so she actually gives it to you for $10 for both, so you get to save $10, which means you get to go and buy something else. And all these synchronicities just happen beautifully in your life, and there's really no explanation for it. They just happen. Okay? So, level 5 is a level of peace. See my little guy meditating there? Your core feeling is I feel peace. My thought around that is win-win. And what my actions are out of that is acceptance. This is different than complacency. Complacency is I don't agree with it, or I do agree with it, and I'm still judging it. Acceptance is no judgment. It is what it is, and it's okay as it is. It's perfect as it is. All right? So we want to make sure that at level 5, we're not just serving people. We're not just in a place of support, because that can actually be very taxing. And all of these levels, even at the highest levels, remember how catabolic energy seems like it's negative. Even though there's no negative, it's very low. And there are moments where it's effective to be in those states. At level 4, it can actually do you a disservice to always be in a place of service because you're not taking care of yourself. We see this with parents all the time who go above and beyond and do stuff for everybody else all the time and never take care of themselves. They'll actually break down and fall into a level 1 because eventually they have to take care of themselves. Level 5 is moving away from that. It's saying, you know what? I'm going to be of service, but I'm also going to take care of myself along the way. So it's a higher level. Does that make sense? Great. And the highest level is level 6. This is pure joy, synthesis, wisdom. Things just come to you. Things just happen. You can't even explain it. It's very law of attraction happens here, right? I'm putting out my energy. The universe is reciprocating that energy, and things fall into place, and there's no explanation. This is great. However, some people can be like, man, you're too much of a hippie. You're unrealistic. Things don't always work that way. Life doesn't happen that way. You seem like you're disconnected, right? If you could live here all the time, it's beautiful. But, like I said, not realistic, and others sometimes can't connect with that. All right? So, before I move on to your self-awareness piece, are there any questions about the levels? Perfect. So, once again, I want you to look at this. 2 to 3 times you've been in high anabolic energy. What was the relationship? What caused it? How did you feel about it? How did you show up? And how effective were you? Awesome. So here's what we want to remember about the levels of energy. One, emotions are feedback, and that feedback is the energy. That's how we recognize it, right? If I'm lethargic, if I'm angry, if I'm combative, if I'm in a place of flow, if I'm complacent, if whatever that is, that tells us, hey, you're either in alignment or you're not in alignment. Fix it or keep doing what you're doing. Pay attention to that. Okay? It's neither good nor bad, just feedback, just telling us what we need to focus on, and all have their use and place in certain times. Sometimes it's good to be in level 1, sometimes it's good to be in level 6. The goal is to increase your average resonating energy. The higher you resonate, the happier you are. Okay? The happier you are, the more effective you are. That makes sense, right? So here's what I want you to take a moment to realize and to contemplate how would you move from one level of energy to another if you find yourself in a place where you are not being productive, effective, or that is serving you. So for instance, if you're at a level 1 with your work, how do you get out of that? How do you bring yourself at least to a level 2? Or how do you skip it and go to level 3? If you're at a level 2 and you're angry and you're combative, how do you get yourself to a level 4? Maybe you're already in level 3 and you want to go to level 4, so on and so forth. So I wrote out some here that I want you to really contemplate is how do I move myself up this spectrum knowing that I can fluctuate, knowing that energy is feedback, and knowing that the more effective I am or the higher my energy level, the higher I show up emotionally, the more effective I am within the relationships, whether it's with myself, with someone around me, or the situation. So let's pause for a second and give you a chance to, how would you move through these? All right, so how can you move from one level of energy to another? The first one we did together, you can get upset, right? To go from level 1, a place of sadness, to a place of anger, you can allow that to take over. From level 1 to level 3, you can understand what you do and do not have control over, right? So it's understanding, you know what? I can't do anything about this. It is what it is. It's fine. I'm going to take responsibility for my actions and just let things be. From 2 to 4, so from anger to focusing on others in service, remember, moving away from ourselves, I have to win, to supporting others, I'm going to shift my focus from getting yours to helping others. You know what? This isn't working. I'm not productive in this relationship. I will actually get more out of this if I help you get what you need. So let me move away from trying to win to supporting you. Okay? From 3 to 4, what you can do is you can reach out to someone that you can offer service to. So instead of just letting things be and not being happy with them, but just, it is what it is, you know what? I'm going to actually make this better by supporting someone else. From level 3 to 5, you can look for opportunities in this situation and how you can both enhance your experience while doing the same for someone else. Level 5 is very opportunity driven. It's what is the chance for me to better my situation while getting someone what they need. This is not necessarily compromise, though there might be some compromise in this. It's really you get everything you need, they get everything they need. We just support each other. How do we leverage those relationships? Okay? And then from 4 to 5, leveraging your strengths to incorporate things you are very passionate about. Any questions? All right. So, one of the things I want to leave you with is a toolbox. What do I do with all of this? I have some tools now to recognize it through energy, through core feeling, core thoughts, and core emotions. If any of those show up, I know where I'm at emotionally and I can navigate it. I can change it. I know how to climb from level 2 to level 5. Those are some of the key components, right? It also allows me to recognize it in others. If someone's at level 2, they're angry, I can go to level 4 and serve them to bring them out, right? And these things really have a great play. And once you become a wizard of it, you can almost navigate them and use them to almost get whatever you want within your relationships, right? But there are some tools to practice this. One of the best ones is in every relationship is to set intentions. What do you want out of the relationship? What do you want out of the situation? What are you trying to accomplish? And being clear that your intent is not to win or to be right, but it's to build a relationship. So think about a relationship with your spouse. Whenever you get in a fight, what is your intention? Is your intention to make your spouse feel stupid and tear them down and build you up and get on your soapbox? Or is your intent to build a relationship, to grow, to become closer together? That's going to change how you show up. I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to actually say, you know what? You're probably right. I'm probably right. You're probably wrong. I'm probably wrong. Let's talk about this, grow from it, and get a new level of understanding. So intention setting in your relationships is very huge because it focuses you. It gives you clear direction. Okay? Another great tool is to journal. Daily, a couple times a week, whatever that is. You don't have to sit down and write down about anything specific. Just write about your emotions. Write about those questions I asked you. What was going on? What was the situation? Right? What was the relationship? What was your core feeling? What was your core thought? What was your core action? And were you effective? And then add one more question. What would you do differently if you could do it again? If you sit down and write about that, what will happen is you start to actually notice it and recognize it in the moment. You don't actually have to journal about it after the fact. You can catch it real time and make the changes you need to get the things that you want and desire. Okay? Western culture is making a huge move right now that I love, and it's meditation. This is your level of awareness. Meditation quiets your mind, tells you to relax, removes distractions, and says, hey, be present, be in the moment, remove away from your ego, and just let things be. So practice that, meditate. There's a bunch of great resources on meditation. If you would like some, please let me know. I can send them your way. Okay? Also, partner up. Ask somebody, hey, I'm working on this in these situations, in these relationships, in this relationship with myself. When you notice me not living the way I want to live or responding the way I want to respond emotionally, call me on it. Help me with it. Help me understand it. Or ask in hindsight, hey, this is something I'm trying to pay attention to. Can you tell me of a time when I was high emotion, low emotion? How did I show up? Was I effective? How did that impact the dynamic of our relationship? Bring those to light. Have those conversations. Okay? Align your life. The more things you can remove that are out of alignment and put in place things that are in alignment, the happier you'll be, the higher emotional resonating energy you'll have. Pay attention to that. If you have people in your life that are emotional drains and suckers, cut them out. Move on from them. Okay? That doesn't mean cut them cold turkey. I can't talk to you anymore because you drain my emotional energy. But put distance in between them. That's okay. Sometimes you outgrow people. Sometimes you outgrow somebody. There are many of my friends that outgrew me for a while, and then we got back together, and then I outgrew them for a while, and we got back together. That happens. That's real life, right? Just make sure you're more in alignment and you're not doing things that take you out of alignment that you can control. The best example I have of this is your social media. It amazes me how many people will get on Facebook and scroll through their feed and be pissed off in 10 minutes and slam their phone down and just be mad. You have 100% control over what you see on Facebook. Stop following those people, those articles, those feeds that upset you. You're out of alignment. That's an emotional feedback. Change it. Stop doing things that make you upset or angry or sad. Take control. Okay? Express, don't suppress. Emotions are feedback. Let them out. Don't bury them. Pay attention to them. Now, express them appropriately when appropriate. At some point, you might have to bite your tongue if you have something to say and go to someone that you trust to confide in, and that's okay, but have those in place. Don't just swallow it and never let anything come of it, because eventually it'll manifest in physical illness if you don't allow it emotionally to escape. Okay? Make sure you continue to practice this. Make sure that it's something that you pay attention to. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And then if you want some more support with this, there are a bunch of assessment tools. I have, through IPEC, a couple that I can offer you if you're interested. IPEC actually does an emotional leadership index. It talks about your core energy dynamics, your energy resonating scales, how you show up in what situations, and it's an assessment. You get online, you answer some questions, and then we do a debrief to help you really understand that. Okay? There's another one that I really like. It's called the Berkman method. It does something very similar where it talks about your motivational needs and then how do you show up your usual behavior, your stress behavior, and your needs around those. So if you're interested in either of those, please let me know. And then also coaching. I cannot stress how important coaching is. If you do not have a coach, if you've never had a coach, find somebody. I can set you up with one. Do a 1-hour session. A lot of coaches offer like 30 to 45 minutes for free just to see if it's for you. Tap into that, right? A coach, what that allows you to do is to get an unbiased third-party feedback mechanism that'll help guide you, they don't really give you direction, but what they do is they ask you good pointed questions that maybe you don't think to ask yourself or your friends won't ask you, that really bring that self-awareness to light. It is one of the most beneficial things and one of the best way to spend your money in the personal development space. So take a look at those. If any of those intrigue you, I also have some resources for journals. There's a bunch online, meditation, some alignment activities, things like that. Reach out to me. I can give you some more resources on those, okay? So before we end today, what I want you to do is I want you to take a minute and delve into a personal case study. Pick one relationship in your life that would benefit from you showing up with a higher level of energy and EI. Whether it's yourself, a relationship with someone else, or a situational relationship. What is your typical energy level in that relationship? What are the outcomes of you showing up the way you show up? What can you do to enhance how you show up in the future? And how would that change your outcomes? Take a minute and answer those questions. So this becomes your first actionable step. Show up differently next time in this relationship. Tomorrow, whether it's yourself, someone around you, or a situation, when you engage in that relationship, show up at a higher level. If you're usually at a level 2, show up at a level of service. Instead of coming in and saying, I need this, come in and say, how can I help you? Do that for a little bit and see how it changes the dynamic of the relationship and also the results you get. Over time, you'll also notice that you're happier and you're more effective. Okay? Awesome. So that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you for coming. As always, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Brandon Johnson. You can reach me at brandon@boostyourcurve.com. You can also visit our website for other trainings at boostyourcurve.com or on Facebook and Instagram at boostyourcurve. We're always posting a lot of free content, other resources, guides. I share a lot of things from other people that I like, whether it's Tony Robbins or Brendan Bouchard or those Vishen Lakhiani at Mind Valley. They're brilliant. I like to share them. I have some content I put out there. Once again, I look forward to seeing you in something else or talking to you soon. As always, best of luck.